depended on a few factors which we'll get into, but before we do that, let's go ahead and jump down into the match. I think we're ready to go ahead and get things started here. So looks like Christian will go ahead and win the coin flip. Not very relevant in this matchup though, as both players want to go in their respective turns. Eternatus wanting to go first, and Christian playing the Pikachu and Zekrom deck, wanting to go second to utilize that turn one Boltund Electrify.
Yeah, definitely. Regardless of who wins the flip, we're going to see the same thing, right? And this matchup is definitely kind of a staple of the format. It feels like two of the very most popular decks. I've played a lot with both of these decks, and they're both very strong in their own rights. And Andres actually getting a pretty solid turn here thanks to all of those mulligans that Christian gave him. And now Andres will get an extra dark energy, is able to find the dark energy to throw down onto that Eternatus. Also building Spite on Spiritomb. Spiritomb actually can be a decent attacker in this matchup, potentially closing things out on a Dedenne in the late game.
Yeah, this deck is able to put on so much aggression here, Chip. Both of these decks want to have their game plan. What do you think the game plan for both of these decks is going to be able to take a win in this match?
Well, for Christian, he's going to need a lot of crushing hammers to go his way, to be honest. I've played this matchup out a lot on both sides, to be honest. And as we see, the first hammer, unfortunately, is Tails on Christian. The Eternatus player just it really does feel like such a solid matchup for Eternatus, right? You're able to one-hit KO these tag team Pokemons in order to take half of your prize cards throughout the game, right? So you really only need to attack 2, maybe 3 times in order to close out the game, whereas Pikachu and Zekrom has to work a little bit harder to get there. We're usually going to try to see Christian get a reset stamp to a low hand size and then get off a paralysis via Tandem Shock with the Raichu and Alolan Raichu, or the Mewtwo and Mew with the Raichu in the discard pile, in order to paralyze and leave your opponent with a very low hand size, and just hope that that is enough for you to claw back into the game.
Yeah, and it looks like on Christian's side has that turn one Electrify already on board. Quick Ball here, gonna ditch a Lightning Energy. Obviously, great synergy with that Tapu Koko Prism Star. Dance the Ancients, able to accelerate energy out of this card pile and get these attackers powered up even quicker. Looks like Pikachu and Zekrom going to be grabbed off the Quick Ball, is going to get benched, and the Electrify here very likely is going to go ahead and throw these Lightning Energy onto the Pikachu and Zekrom. You really want to go ahead and swing with that first, and then the Mewtwo and Mew just becomes a much more versatile attacker on the side of Christian.
We did see, unfortunately, a double hammer Tails on Christian's side. You're lucky enough to find 2 of your hammers, just not lucky enough on the coin flips, unfortunately. And Andres is going to just try to push the advantage here. We see that Eternatus VMAX coming into play, that Dread End attack, of course, doing 30 damage for each of your Darkness-type Pokemon in play. So we could definitely see a 2-prize KO on Andres' side, but this could play into a decent comeback game plan for Christian by taking a 2-prize knockout on Boltund V and then a 3-prize knockout on either Pikachu, Zekrom, or Mewtwo. You open yourself up to potentially being reset stamped down to just 1 card and then paralyzed by a Tandem Shock.
Yeah, so a few interesting things at the end of the turn there. Crobat only going to draw 2 extra cards with Dark Asset, but does find one of those Crushing Hammers 2 for 2 this turn, so pretty much opposite from Christian's luck. 0 for 2 and 2 for 2. However, as action is back on Christian, this Eternatus 10 damage short of taking the knockout on Boltund, but that might be what Andres wants in this situation, to be able to take that knockout later on with something like a Zigzagoon, which can deal 10 damage anywhere on the board. Would be perfect math to take a knockout on this Boltund. Christian's got to put something together. We'll be able to either use Electrify or Bolt Storm this turn, so it's not all bad that this Boltund is staying alive in this case. Well, does have a few options to make. Could utilize that Tapu Koko. We know at least 2 energy in the discard pile, 3 to be exact. As Quick Ball gets played, we'll grab Crobat. So a bunch of Crobats getting played down on both players' sides. As Christian will be able to draw a bunch of cards and get that hand size filled up to 6. We'll see if he wants to choose to play any other cards, thin any other cards out so he can maximize the total amount of cards drawn off of Dark Asset.
As Christian here, I actually do really feel like taking the attack with Boltund here is really strong, and that's exactly what we'll see Christian do. You can hit for a solid chunk of damage with the Tapu Koko's Dance of the Ancients, getting yourself a total of 5 energy in play, doing 160 damage, so that means you can pick up a KO with a Tag Bolt on Eternatus VMAX, and then if at the same time you're able to find one of those last 2 Crushing Hammers and get rid of the energy that's potentially prepped on the bench by Andres, you could get yourself multiple turns of attacking when your opponent doesn't have any energies in play.
So we do see the Tapu Koko Prism Star will get popped, accelerating 2 energy on the discard pile, and the Bolt will go for a Bolt Storm, and that is another Crushing Hammer heads. Gonna remove an energy off of that Pikachu and Zekrom. We'll also get another attachment down the board. Spiritomb will build Spite again. Gonna put more damage counters on itself. That Anguish Cry dealing more damage for each damage counter on it. So happy to take some time and slowly build that up to possibly be an attacker to take a knockout later on in the game. And it does find a Zigzagoon, so we'll take 2 prizes onto that active Bolt Hunt. And now it kind of is a tough decision for Christian. Do you promote one of these 3 prizers? There's a high chance with the big hand size that Andres has that there will just be another couple Pokemon in hand, and we'll actually promote the Crobat. So this means now Andres doesn't even need to knock out a tag team. There is another 2-prize Pokemon, being that Dene on the bench. So we could just see this Eternus take a knockout and the game be over the following turn.
It's honestly kind of crazy that Andres has gotten this set up while only having to put 1 Crobat in play. Hasn't even had to draw that much with Dark Asset. But has plenty of options, is going to go ahead and leave the bench spot open, which I do like. You know, if you do get reset stamped down to 2 cards here, you want to have outs to find the Crobat so you can try to draw out of it. Now, on to Christian's side, you're really hurting here. This is not a good or ideal situation at all. I mean, you're just one attack away on your opponent's side from them just winning the game. Only 2 prize cards remaining. So, I mean, you're going to need some of these Crushing Hammers to come through. They haven't come through for you yet. We got to see if we can find them, and we got to see if we can flip some heads.
Yeah, as the board stands right now for Christian, it's going to go ahead and play research. But Andres just has too much threats in this case. And the problem is, usually you want to just kind of take knockouts with Tandem Shock, slowly paralyzing turn after turn. But Hammer does hit heads. So this is very important for Christian to try to slow this down. So something like a Tandem Shock play, in combination with the reset stamp, as we see that get played down, seems like the best route. And this hand is not looking too good for Andres. Has no real way to draw cards, just a Spiritomb and an energy, and is actually just going to pass with the Dedenne in the active. So this Eternatus will be able to utilize Dread End, take the knockout onto the Dedenne, and we'll see Andres take game 1 in a pretty dominating fashion.
Yeah, Christian had a small opportunity there on that last turn. If he'd been able to find the tag switch, been able to find the Crushing Hammer and flip heads, what you could have done is hit the energy off the benched Eternatus, go for the reset stamp, and then use Tag Bolt to pick up the KO on the Eternatus VMAX. But that's a lot to ask for. When you still have almost 30 cards in your deck, I think, starting the turn, definitely was a small chance it could have happened. Didn't quite work out for Christian in this one, and we see Andres taking down game 1 in extremely convincing fashion.
Yeah, very convincing indeed, Chip. As we move into game 2, what does Christian really need to do to take the tide in this game and really turn things around and possibly force a game 3?
I think he needs for Andres to draw a little bit slower, or in order to come back into the game. I mean, you're almost always, as the Pikachu Zekrom player, going to be playing this matchup from behind, it feels like. So you need to be able to set up those turns where you can get the reset stamp to low in combination with the paralysis, and also flip a few more heads maybe on your Crushing Hammers. That never hurt anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. Crushing Hammer being such a powerful card in both of these decks. And we'll see who can maybe flip a little bit better on these coin flips, that being a big part of the format right now. And we're ready to go ahead and get into the second game of this series. So let's go ahead and throw it down to the players here. Andres is going to have the option to choose whether or not he will go first or second. We already explained this before. Both of these decks want to go their own way when it comes to turns. So Andres is going to go ahead and go first here. And now is really the question of what can Christian do, really? Needs to obviously find that turn 1 Electrify, but from there, it really just also comes down to how Andres sets his board up.
And we do see, the energy draw here was huge. That was the one thing Andres really needed on this turn. You've got a couple great balls, pretty good odds you'll find an Eternatus V, and drawing that energy, once again, thanks to the mulligans. We saw that in game 1. Andres was missing the energy, was able to find it off the mulligans, and that exact same thing happened in this situation as well.
Yeah, and an interesting choice whether or not to grab this turn of this VMAX off the Great Ball. The thought process here is you would draw one less card with that Dark Asset ability on Crobat, but you would guarantee the VMAX for next turn. And we haven't really seen Andres take the route of Power Accelerator in this game, so I do like this decision to grab the VMAX. Has energy for next turn. Things are looking super solid here for Andres as action is back on Christian. Needs to find that turn 1 Electrify. Didn't start one of his worst starters, but Crushing Hammer here, a big card. We'll see if this one goes ahead and flips heads. No, still tails. You hate to see this here if you're Christian. You need to hit those hammerheads to slow this deck down so they cannot apply pressure as quickly as they can in this matchup.
Yeah, it might be time to put that coin down and pull something else out of the bag here because that one is not doing you any favors, it seems. We'll see if Christian can find another hammer. On Andres' side, I really love to see you try to get down to Eternatus V. Didn't look like Andres really had the option to. But what can happen here is if Christian does find a heads, you want to be able to VMAX plus utilize Power Accelerator, which can be tough to do unless you get to Eternatus V down. And Christian does not even find the Bolton, does not even find the energy to electrify. Is just going to have to be an energy attachment for turn onto the Mewtwo and a pass.
Yeah, an interesting choice here for Andres is going to actually decline to use the Dark Asset on the first Crobat to draw an extra card with the second one, as he will most likely be playing this research, or just taking a knock out of the Dene, as there are a few key pieces, that being the energy cards mainly in Andres' hand. Needs those obviously to attack later on, but nothing else really to attach to. So I wouldn't hate necessarily going for some different line of play, but we actually will see the boss. This is a great way to bring this Mewtwo Mew up, apply pressure to the only thing with energy on the board, and really put yourself in a dominating position.
Absolutely. I mean, the only way Christian can really do much next turn is via Tapu Koko's Dance of the Ancients, getting an extra energy plus attaching there, being able to utilize something like Full Blitz or Tandem Shock. Now with this Mewtwo being brought active, it forces Christian to find more pieces. You have to find the switch and then also find the Tapu Koko, the energy, and the tag team to put in the discard pile.
Yeah, it just seems like even more to ask for Christian, especially after that poor start on the first turn of the game. Not able to get the Electrify, forced to just settle with attaching to the Mewtwo Mew. And I wonder here with how long Christian is taking, what outs he even has. We do see the Electromagnetic Radar, so assuming that other Dedenne is in play, we'll be able to grab that. Can also grab out those key attackers like the Pikachu and Zekrom, like that Raichu and Raichu. I think just deciding what cards to discard, as has to get rid of a Yell Grunt and a Speed Lightning energy here. That Yell Grunt being a card you really don't want to have to discard unless you really need to.
Yeah, it can definitely be a very crucial card for the matchup. You, of course, can get access to it once again with the Eldegoss V, potentially, but you really want to utilize your Eldegoss to find something like a Boss's Orders, I feel like, a lot of the time.
Yeah, looks like gonna get 6 fresh new cards off that Dede change. The Dede obviously being a staple card in this Pikachu and Zekrom deck, and many decks in the standard format. Just such aggressive card draw from a basic Pokemon that can be searched out in so many ways. Here's another Crushing Hammer from Christian. Does finally hit his first of the set, and that will set Andres back a turn from attachments. But with this hand, I really think you're not too upset if a Crushing Hammer has to hit sometime during this game. Now could just honestly be the best time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not getting attacked and Crushing Hammered at the same time, it's really almost inconsequential, it feels like.
Yeah, exactly at this point. Looks like action back on Christian. Still has the ability to Quick Ball and find yet another basic Pokemon out of the deck. Looks like eyeing up the potential options here. Could find something like the Raichu, even a Boltund, which we have not seen come into play yet. Could get grabbed off of this Quick Ball. Just has a lot of options out of the deck, and that's what Quick Ball really provides, a lot of versatility for these. And even the Tapu Koko Prism Star can get grabbed and accelerate some energy onto the board for Christian here. And we will see that hit the play at the bench. So would not be surprised if we see something like a switch. Hopefully this turn, I think, is really what Christian is looking for. In combination with that, Tapu Koko Prism Star will allow this Mewtwo to get an attack off and apply some pressure onto this Eternatus.
Yeah, just a switch would be the best card to find here for Christian. Is able to find it perfect. And another Crushing Hammer. Does not go their way once again, and we see another one.
Oh, no!
It's one out of all of the Crushing Hammers flipped so far in the series.
And that's all of them for Christian.
Yeah,
he is out of Crushing Hammer. No way to disrupt the energies. And he's down both Team Yell Grunt and the Eldegoss V, so he has no way to disrupt energy here. This is it's looking like a perfect game for Andres to really just run away with things. The turn of this can just slowly build up and just take these one-shots and will win the prize trade. Well, when you're one-shotting to getting two-shotted, both of these being 3-prize Pokemon, it's just looking so good right now for Andres.
Definitely ideal, but that at least the one Crushing Hammer does buy you an opportunity here where Andres is gonna be not gonna be able to attach to an Eternatus V on the bench this turn. Has to attach to the active, and then you're still kind of behind a turn of attachments, right?
Yeah, we're seeing two different sides of the coin here, literally onto these Crushing Hammer cards. Andres has been flipping excellent this entire game, getting heads, being able to remove these energies. Obviously, a little bit more important in Christian's side to hit these energy acceleration or energy disruption cards. But in this case here, Andres able to disrupt some energy. Still feels good when you get to take an energy off your opponent's board. I think just deciding what to get rid of with Quick Ball is going to actually opt to get rid of the Boss's Orders. An interesting discard. I guess assuming there's probably a possibility that my Eternatus VMAX can go down next turn. I'll probably want to prioritize a card draw supporter here. Or maybe just thinning his hand down to 0, which it looks like we might see, except the energy attachment, so my mistake there. We'll be able to thin this hand down to 5, but that will also be all 4 Crobats gone, so we'll have just even less options off of a potential reset stamp later on in this game.
I mean, you're gonna, as Andres, have all of your energies probably cleared out of play here. I think really the only play for Christian is to go for the Tag Bolt, right? Take the knockout on Eternatus VMAX and then just try to maneuver the game from there. And also, as Andres, you will have to discard multiple Pokemon here because the Eternatus VMAX is being knocked out, meaning that Eternal Zone ability no longer active. Some of those Pokemon will have to go to the discard pile.
Yeah, so smartly bringing up the Dene with a Lightning Energy, this opens up a lot of plays just in case Christian wants to go for a Tandem Shock. That Dene is never really attacking, so we will just actually see the switch get played before the research is actually going to discard 3 Boltund off of that. So not looking like Boltund will be the strategy here for Christian. Is going to go in with this solo Mewtwo Mew in combination with a reset stamp to put Andres' hand down to 3, and those are not 3 very good cards off of that reset stamp. It does find the energy, which is important, and we will see Christian take that line of play like you explained before. Tag Bolt will knock out that Eternatus VMAX. Christian will have to, Christian will get 3 prize cards here, and as you said, Andres is going to discard his bench down. We'll need to find even more Pokemon in combination with setting up another VMAX again to really get going and build up the bench to hit for the damage that he needs to hit for.
Yeah, you find the VMAX here, which isn't too bad. I mean, as Andres, all your Crobats are gone. Your real only draw outs here are going to be top decking something like a Research or a Marnie. That's it. No Quick Ball outs, no Communication outs, no Great Ball outs even. And gonna go ahead and choose to leave the Yveltal active. I wouldn't have hated seeing just a retreat to the Zigzagoon here. Your opponent is gonna take a prize, right? It's not like they're just gonna pass with your Zigzagoon active, force you to find more. No, they've got to take knockouts, right? So now you lose this pivot, and what do you send up here? Eternatus, and hope that you draw energy or a Research. And it looks like that is the strat for Andres. Let's see what the top deck is. It is a quick ball,
but there's no more Crobat left. Yeah, no Crobat left. Had to expand all 4 of those. This is where being a little bit more conservative this matchup, like you said, taking it slow is so important, because just like that, it means you can draw 6 more cards and possibly could have found all the cards you need for this game, as this switch in combination with the Air Balloon on the Eldegoss is going to allow Mewtwo Mew to Tandem Shock, and this will be one more piece Andres needs to find in order to get out of this situation, so to say, that he's been put in.
Even just the one single Crushing Hammer heads was all Christian needed to try to claw back into this one, and I mean, you're not going to be able to take a knockout next turn, but if you can find the switch card, you can just get the paralysis off again, and you force your opponent to find even more, needing the switch and needing multiple Pokemon.
Yeah, there's 2 sides to what you could do. You could Quick Ball away the Eternatus, but we know Andres is down a fair amount of bench Pokemon, and there's the switch from Christian. So we'll, again, reset the Tandem Shock. So this is pretty much do or die here for Andres. He's got to find something to put together in order to take this game and advance to 2-0 in the set. What does he top deck? It's a Research! That is a
such a
huge time top
draw.
deck here for Andres. 7 cards. Does he find the switch and the energy? He does, as well as, I believe that will be perfect if he has the last Zigzagoon in deck. I believe that will be exactly math.
There.
So he will have Pokemon Communication. So if that last Zigzagoon has not been discarded yet and is still in the deck, there will be perfect math here. The 10 from the Zigzagoon will put that Mewtwo Mew to 240 HP remaining. And this Dread End is doing exactly that. 240 damage with 6 bench Pokemon left. Or actually, 210 damage, so it's not quite a knockout here. My mistake on that. So does not have the ability to take the game.
It's there, that's game.
Oh, that's game. Yeah, Zigzagoon will actually do it.
That'll
yeah,
be
that extra bench spot.
You need. You'll be doing 240 damage, 270 total HP there on the Mewtwo and Mew. And Andres, from a seemingly unwinnable situation, finds the exact top deck needed in order to pick up this final KO, finds the exact cards off the professor's research, and 240 damage coming down to that Mewtwo that already had 30 on it. That will award Andres the victory, and we'll be moving on to the next round of the winner's brackets.
Yeah, just like when it seemed Christian was 1 turn away from forcing a game 3. An incredible top deck there, Professor Research being so strong at drawing through your deck, finding those pieces, and Andres drew perfectly off of that research. Finding the switch, the Pokemon, the last Zigzagoon in deck, just shows us how this turn of this deck can pull victories from seemingly out of nowhere.
Absolutely, things set up perfectly there in the end game for Andres. As Christian, I mean, you hate to see it. All those Crushing Hammer tails throughout the whole set. Just nothing really felt like it was going their way. Didn't even get the Electrify off in game 2 and still was in a solid spot potentially. But Andres was able to close it out. Christian is not eliminated, however, will move down to the losers bracket. Still has an opportunity to make a run there, try to get to the losers finals and earn a spot in the global finals coming up soon.
Yeah, an excellent match from both these players. We really saw the prowess that both of those players exemplified in those games. Really shows us as casters, and hopefully you guys at home as well, how these players have gotten to this position and advanced so far throughout this tournament here. We've got one more round from the North American bracket for you guys. It's going to be a player that you guys may have heard of. He's been around a few times here. Azul Griego is going to be up against Hyun Soo Kim, and we see really the parallel opposites here when it comes to accomplishments. Azul being a multiple-time top 8, top 16, internationals finalist. So many incredible accomplishments. Hyun Soo might be a newer player to the game. Not so many accomplishments to your name, but we sort of see the parallels. Veteran of the game, experienced player, up against a newcomer in the game.
Yeah, Azul Griego, one of the strongest players in the game, 5-time regional champion atop all these other accomplishments that we see listed here on his side. Going to be playing that Reshiram and Charizard GX deck with the Blacephalon, kind of a fire toolbox. Tempo Zard, as a lot of people have called it in the community. Going to be going up against another Welder deck. It's going to be Hyun Soo Kim's Scorch VMAX. We see the Cramorant V, definitely a crucial part of this deck. And I think one thing's for sure, we're gonna see a lot of Welder played this game.
Yeah, Welder being the key supporter for both of these decks. Great accelerating energy cards from your hand to your Pokemon and drawing cards as well. Both of these decks being Welder engines for sure, as fire types are loving the Welder supporter card from that Unbroken Bonds expansion. As you get into this game, there's definitely a lot of routes to take when it comes to that, and I'll let you get into that chip, but let's actually go ahead and get down to the game. I know both players here are ready to get into things, so this should be an exciting one. Again, an old player in the game, a veteran, so to say, up against a newer player here, as Hyun is going to go ahead and win the coin flip, and this Scorch deck loves to go second, but it definitely does not love to see this hand.
Not at all. Fire energies. I mean, you've got the Welder, but Giratina, not a very good starter, not even a good card for you in this matchup. Useful to discard, opposing special energies on your opponent's side, but in this matchup, Azul is only playing basic fire energies.
Yeah, in there for stuff like Coding Metal Energy to remove, get that removal of weakness off of stuff like Zacian V and Luke Metal into the, in that matchup here specifically, but Azul's gonna get things started, is able to get the Cramorant down, and especially when you're going through this matchup, Welder decks obviously want to utilize Welder, but that recent rule change as a Sword and Shield cannot play a supporter on their first turn, so we'll have to just settle with getting one energy attachment and getting a lot of energies into play the following turn.
Yeah, and this is actually ideal, I feel like, for Azul. I think in this matchup, Cramorant's spit shot attack is really strong. If Hyun is able to set up, ideally, right, you're going to get a Volcanion, you're going to get a Centiskorch V, and you're going to load a bunch of energies onto that Centiskorch here. And it has 320 HP once it VMAXes. So if you can get some damage thrown down onto it before it has an opportunity to even do any damage, that makes it much easier to manage in the mid to late game.
Yeah, and a big-time top deck here for Hyun finds the Pokemon communications, which means we could even see a Centiskorch come down and get a full effect Welder onto it. Or play something a little bit safer and find the Volcanion. There's a lot of options of play now for Hyun with that top deck. Otherwise, it was looking grim. We may have actually seen a Welder onto this Giratina, not able to attack. This deck is playing no Psychic Energy, so would pretty much only be able to retreat out of the active. There's the Pokemon Communications, going to throw Jirachi back into the deck, and we are actually going to see that Centiskorch get grabbed, and I'm sure a Welder for full effect will guarantee at least 2 energy onto that Centiskorch, and these are going to need to be a big 3 cards off of this.
Not the best. Finds Jirachi, finds Heatran, both very good cards, but you're not able to utilize Stellar Wish unless you have a switch card here, which we see, obviously, Hyun Soo does not have, and it's just probably going to have to be the pass here, pretty much a standstill of a turn. Luckily, though, for Hyun Soo, Azul does also play the Giant Hearth Stadium, so pretty likely that we can see that Welder played to good effect for Hyun, as long as Azul puts a Giant Hearth in play.
Yeah, and this is looking very solid here for Azul. All he needs is a Welder and 2 Fire Energy in order to get that Spit Shot out. Going to be able to deal 160 damage anywhere. I think I know where that damage is probably going to get applied to. Wants to put the pressure onto that Centiskorch V. Not able to return KO without VMAXing. And when you VMAX, you pretty much give your opponent the opportunity, especially when they're setting up a 2-shot, to take an extra prize. And that is big in the trading card game, especially with Blacephalon being great at setting up math later. But we just see this the beat catch on Cramorant. An attack we don't see a lot, but still a solid one. Allows you to grab any 2 cards out of your deck. And I'm sure we're going to at least see a Welder and a way to get some Fire Energy out of the deck get grabbed, most likely off the speed catch.
Certainly a slower start for Azul here. Normally this deck likes to just start attacking super quickly, get your Welders, you know, find those Jirachis, start using Stellar Wish, but has to slow things down a little bit. Beak Catch is a good option when you have these slower starts, and Azul doesn't know it yet, but Hyun Soo is not really going to be able to do much here on their turn.
Yeah, top decking Cramorant V, not what you want to see. Even a single Fire Energy, which this Centiskorch deck plays so many outs to. The Fire Energy itself, plus Giant Hearth as well, not able to find that off the top of the deck. And this leaves Hyun in a super tough position. Do you Boss's Orders potentially up the Oricorio to buy yourself? Doesn't even buy you a turn, right? Because Welder can accelerate 2 to the Cramorant and then manual attach to the Oricorio to retreat it, or just play a switch card of Azul's own. And I think that's the thought, is maybe bring up the Blacephalon, forces to discard some energy, but that even gives you more switching outs. You can just play a Soup Up Net now to get that Blacephalon out of the active.
And Hyun Soo debating here, playing the reset stamp. Of course, Azul did just use Beat Catch, grabbed 2 cards out of the deck. So you have to imagine Azul prepared himself pretty well for this coming turn. Like you said, likely with Welders and Giant Hearths. So maybe a reset stamp could slow Azul down a little bit, give you an opportunity to try to find some more pieces. And that's what Hyun Soo is going to go with. Go ahead and play that stamp. You do give your opponent an additional card in their hand, but you get rid of the 2 that you know they wanted to get.
Yeah, and I believe that is Hyun's only reset stamp down. So obviously you want to reset stamp with your opponents at lower prize counts, like 3, 2, or 1 prize card remaining. But you will be unable to do that now, as we see Azul was able to find the Welder off of those 6 fresh cards that Hyun gave him, able to put that onto the Cramorant, and the Giant Hearth will at least guarantee this Blacephalon will be able to retreat at minimum. Azul obviously wants to find something like a switch or a Scoop Up Net so that extra energy does not have to get discarded off this Blacephalon.
And as Azul, I mean, you've seen your opponent has not done much for 2 turns in a row, pretty much. You could make an argument here that instead of spit-shotting the Centiskorch, maybe you chase down that Jirachi, taking away your opponent's potential outs. But at the same time, I think your setup is already so much better. If you can just get that damage down onto Centiskorch V before it becomes a VMAX, if your opponent does ever top deck out of things, you're going to be in a better position in the late to mid game.
And an excellent play here from Azul before ending the turn is going to utilize that Mewtwo, the Mind Report ability, allowing him to put a Welder back onto the top of the deck so that he has it guaranteed as a top deck for next turn. And that Giant Hearth is going nowhere during this matchup. Both players playing that in their lists, and no way to remove that. So pretty much guarantees also the 2 Fire Energy as a big top deck is going to go ahead and put that Giratina out of the active of the Scuba Met, but a very interesting line of play is going to actually bring the Heatran up to him in this Cramorant. Apply a little bit of pressure, can take a knockout with something like that Hot Burn GX will guarantee 2 energy and the Welder with that Giant Hearth, but it just feels so bad to really have to use your GX attack on something like Heatran, and you already have to take all the energy off your Centiskorch. Now this Heatran can just die to an opposing, or get knocked out to an opposing Double Blaze, so that's kind of where things really get tricky.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think Hyun Soo has better options, to be honest. You got to try to get back into this game at some point here. Attacking with a Centiskorch VMAX that has a bunch of damage on it already could be pretty bad. And you've got outs here. If you can find a, Centiskorch V and a basic energy here, you can still try to power up another Centiskorch V, so you don't have to, be stuck with this one that's got a bunch of damage on it already. And we do see the dead Dene coming down from the Pokemon Communication, giving you options to draw more cards. And now if Hyun Soo can find that the Centiskorch V, as well as a basic energy, we could see another Centiskorch try to be powered up.
Yeah, we'll need to slowly build up energy over time. I think just debating as the clock is ticking down a little bit there is actually going to go ahead and grab the Dene. Wants to see more cards, but you really hate to play down stuff like the Dene, stuff like Crobat in this matchup, because they are easy targets to be picked off with that Spit Shot attack on Cramorant, especially as you have something like that Centiskorch already damaged, but does find, like you said, that Centiskorch V, the fresh new one, and that Fire Energy, and is able to take the knockout with Hot Burn GX, 50 damage for every Fire Energy attached to that Heatran. So we'll be dealing just enough damage, 200, to knock out this Cramorant on the bench. So many birds here in this deck. You got Oricorio, Cramorant. There's a whole wide variety here. So action back on Azul, using that Dance of Tribute right away, and we are going to see the Welder onto this Blacephalon. So going to go ahead and try to set up a powerful Fireball Circus attack, dealing 50 damage for every Fire Energy in your hand. Gets a second one down as well, and the Fire Crystal should pretty much guarantee the knockout onto this Heatran.
Yeah, only needing to discard 4 energies here with Fireball Circus. Looks like that is going to be the case. 200 damage coming down onto Heatran GX, knocking it out. Now back over to Hyun Soo. Has a solid enough hand. You need to find the Centiskorch VMAX, but with a lot of Pokemon in your hand, pretty good odds to find either something like a Communication or the Pokemon VMAX itself. And of course, you also have that Dedenne GX already ready to go in hand.
Yeah, looks like has a few options. It's actually going to go ahead and play the Giant Hearth, or utilize the ability on it, rather, to grab 2 more Fire Energy out of the deck. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing a Welder come out first. There is a little bit of dispute on the order of operations here. Obviously, you want to maximize finding those cards that you want. I have to imagine Pokemon Communications or a Centiskorch VMAX is what you're looking for, but actually going to go ahead and go on to this Cramorant to try to apply some pressure via taking a knockout with something like the Spit Shot onto maybe the Mewtwo to prevent it from continuously recovering. Stuff like the Welder cards, obviously, that Azul loves to play in this Fire-based deck. Or we could just see it straight up take a knockout on to this active Blacephalon, which is definitely a big threat right now that Azul has on his board.
Yeah, putting the energies on Cramorant actually makes a lot of sense. Blacephalon only has 120 HP, right? So all you need is an energy attachment, which you know you have. You already had a bunch of energies in hand. So if you just find the switch card, you can still take a knockout with the Centiskorch VMAX and leave that Cramorant ready to go on the bench to potentially take a knockout on something like Oricorio in the late game in combination with your Zigzagoon that you play.
Yeah, so spreading the energies out, very smart here for Hyun. Action back on Azul here, promotes the Jirachi, obviously wants to utilize that Stellar Wish, and starting to turn off again with yet another Dance of Tribute, getting even more cards every time one of your Pokemon gets knocked out. You are able to draw more cards with that, as Giant Hearth will grab more Fire Energy out of the deck, and there is yet another Welder onto this Blacephalon. If Azul can find enough energy here, he'll be able to take a one-hit KO onto this Centiskorch VMAX. So here we go. Azul's gotta find a bunch of energy. Has already used Giant Hearth for the turn. So I have to imagine it may be a little difficult to find the knockout. And if you let the Centiskorch take another prize card, then you open up the door for that Oricorio to get knocked out in the later game with something like the Cramorant, or even if the Centiskorch if it doesn't get dealt with.
You already utilized some of the valuable resources as Azul, like, the Fire Crystal we saw in the last turn, which is super key in order to get back energies, especially in a game that you have to utilize Spit Shot, right? You're discarding a lot of energies, and we will see another Fire Crystal played here. I wonder if Azul's going to be able to get enough energies here to take this knockout. Needs to play down 7 with Fireball Circus, and I think we're going to see it happen with that extra Fire Crystal being played. There we go, the third one of the turn, fourth one of the game coming down, and as long as there is a switch card in hand, Centiskorch VMAX is going to be going down.
Look at that hand size chip. I think he's got it. Has to find 8 energy in combination with this attachment for turn. So now needing 7 energy in the hand, that is probably one of the biggest hand size I think you'll see this Blacephalon deck have, and that's going to be a lot less cards in hand after we see these fire energies get discarded. The switch makes me think he has it. Needs to discard 7, and it will deal a whopping 350 damage to Hyun Soo's active Centiskorch VMAX. Let's see if he has it here. Just needs to get rid of 7. I think with the triple Fire Crystal, we're going to see it. And there it goes. All of those fire energy hitting the discard pile. We'll take 3 prize cards. And Hyun Soo does not have the reset stamp available to really reduce Azul's hand size down from the colossal size that it is right now.
Hyun Soo does play 2 copies in the list, so you've got an opportunity here to dig for that last reset stamp. Of course, we saw one be played in the early turns to try to disrupt Azul's beak catch, so I think that's going to be Hyun Soo's way back into this game. Try to knock out the Oricorio on the bench with the Galarian Zigzagoon play, and, put Azul down to just 1 single card. That reset stamp is there in the deck. Of course, Stellar Wish does allow you to look at the top 5 cards to look for a trainer. Could even dig as well with the Dede change. So Hyun Soo can draw a good chunk of cards this turn to try to hit that reset stamp.
I have to imagine that is the line of play you need to take in this situation. Looks like we will see that energy come down onto the Cramorant. I believe with the Welder, going to draw some additional cards, but it looks like no access to that Zigzagoon right away. I believe you also want to deal with this Blacephalon, so this is kind of where you get put in the predicament of what do you necessarily grab? What is the best option, pretty much? And Stellar Wish will go ahead and find that Pokemon Communications for Hyun Soo. I have to imagine, again, it's so tricky in this spot. I feel like Hyun Soo is definitely on the back foot, as Azul is just 1 prize away. Obviously has no way to take 3 prize cards this turn, as there's only 1 GX Pokemon in play. So that only will give up 2 prize cards. It's actually going to just go ahead and fail the Pokemon Communications. I don't know if I saw Zigzagoon in there. It may actually be prized.
Yeah, it looks like that actually could be the case here, which is really unfortunate for Hyun Soo. You actually could be in a decent spot here if you're able to go with the Dedenne here, find the reset stamp to 1, and knock out the Oricorio all in 1 turn. You could find a way back into this one. And it looks like we'll just see the Great Catcher actually going to bring up the Oricorio, and then maybe using Spit Shot actually to target down the Blacephalon on the bench, as well as find, there it is, the reset stamp. So there you go, stamp down to just 1 card, and then taking out that Blacephalon, which actually is Azul's second Blacephalon, right? So that's not going to be an option for Azul here. Going to need to find something like the Reshiram and Charizard to close this one out.
Yeah, it feels really bad to leave this Oricorio in play. It means it will get off yet another Dance of Tribute. But at the same time, you don't let your opponent promote something like that Jirachi to utilize Stellar Wish. So there's merit to both of these plays. Azul, I think this turn really needs to find that Double Blaze GX. I don't think we've seen a single Reshiram and Charizard hit the board. If he can find a Welder and 3 energy cards, which we know Giant Hearth will be able to find some energies out of the deck, we could just see this Cramorant get knocked out, and Azul will take that final prize card. It's going to start things off with that Dance of Tribute, draw 3 cards, and there's a switch, which means we will see a Stellar Wish here from this Jirachi.
And a quick ball as well, probably drawing that Reshiram and Charizard. Hyun Soo actually got that Galarian Zigzagoon off the prizes, which does leave them the option to potentially win next turn if Azul is not able to find it. You can go quick ball for the Eldegoss, Fire Crystal, grab the energies to throw onto the Cramorant V, switch into the Jirachi, and then if you find the Scoop Up Net, you'll be able to put down Zigzagoon and take the last prize you need on that Oricorio. But that is, of course, assuming Azul's not able to find the pieces here to win the game, needs 3 energy in addition to this Welder, as well as a switching card, is going to get 2 of those energies out with the Giant Hearth. Now just needs to find that final one. There's the Scoop Up Net. Is that 3rd energy in the hand? If it is, oh, not quite yet, it looks like.
I think maybe looking for that 4th Fire Crystal. I don't know if Azul has any more energy left in deck. A lot of them are discarded here, as we will actually see. There is 10 in the discard pile, and there is a Cherish Ball, so may have to dig a little bit more with something like a Dedenne, or just going to fail it here. And this is going to be a big 3 cards off of this Welder. Can Azul find a way to pivot out of this Jirachi in deck to match that Fire Energy for turn to that Reshiram and Charizard? So we'll see what gets grabbed off of this here. I believe still a decent amount of switching outs still in the deck as I look through this card pile. And there's a Scoop Up Net. Will we see this Reshiram and Charizard get promoted? If so, I think there may be the last energy there via something like Fire Crystal or just a manual attachment, or may have to dig with something like a Dedenne, which we will see hit the board. This is going to be a big 6 cards for Azul. Does he find that last energy? And there it is.
There it is, Double Blaze GX picking up this final KO. Azul had to find that basic energy, was able to do it, and is able to take down game number 1. And I don't know, Hyun Soo might have been able to come back in that one if Azul had missed on that turn. So that was that was the game deciding turn right there. Azul's able to close it out, win game number 1, and then now Hyun Soo gonna already be on the back foot in this set. Of course, gets to decide if they'd like to go first or second here in game number 2. Which we will probably see them going second, trying to utilize that Volcanion, and hopefully having a little bit better of a start.
Yeah, that last turn for Azul was only possible with having all of those draw support Pokemon in the deck and in play, or a Courier to start things off, and then utilizing both the Crobat and the Dedenne GX to get through all but 3 cards in the deck, really showing us how to construct this deck to be able to draw you out of tough positions that cards like Reset Stamp can put you in to pretty much pull knockouts out of nowhere.
Yeah, Hyun Soo played it very well, obviously had some unfortunate draws to start the game, very, very slow start, but we're going to go ahead and get down to game number 2. Hopefully Hyun Soo has a better opening hand, has a lot more to work with potentially, and we can see a lot closer of a game here in game number 2, and maybe Hyun Soo can force that game 3.
Hyun Soo is going to be able to go second in this game number 2, obviously wants to get that Flare starter to accelerate those energies into play, being a great attack to use on your first turn if you're going second. But this hand is not looking very strong. Has to start what is probably one of your worst starters in the deck, that being the Dedenne GX. Not able to utilize that Dedenne change ability. And Azul will be going first, so we'll see what is able to really put into play and get rolling. Really going to be looking for one of those attacking Pokemon and a basic energy. So we'll see what is able to really get cooking for Azul, as Cherish Ball will be able to grab one of those GX Pokemon, either Dedenne to really get a new hand, or we could see something like the Reshiram and Charizard get grabbed and start building that up.
Yeah, getting an energy attachment down to the Reshiram and Charizard seems like a pretty decent spot. Either that or the Cramorant V, which is what we saw happen for Azul in game number 1, which looks like that's what's happening here. This hand for Hyun Soo is pretty terrible, to be honest. And the thing about it, though, is there's a lot of really solid top decks for you. Any other Pokemon means that you get to get 2 Pokemon in play before going with something like a Crobat or Dedenne. Any Welder means that you can Welder onto something like a Scorch V right away. So the hand looks very bad, but there's a lot of good cards Hyun Soo could find here. Giant Hearth, not really one of them.
Yeah, definitely not one of them at all. It's playing 2 Dedenne in this list, so assuming that other one is not prized, that may be the only play here for Hyun Soo to go ahead and grab. But you're getting rid of so many fire energy. You really don't want to give your opponent Giant Hearth if you don't need to. Just allows Azul to get even more energy out of the deck. But I'm sure we will most likely just see this quick ball, grab something like the Dedenne out of the deck, and Hyun Soo is going to just try to start things all over again.
Yeah, definitely just a hard reset here. Not ideal at all. And also putting 2 Dedenne in play. I mean, you started one, you can't really help that, but then the hand is so bad that you're forced to find another one as well. Those are just easy prizes for Azul to take down via something like the Great Catcher or, of course, the 2 copies of Cramorant V that Azul is playing.
Yes, I think just checking through that Zigzagoon is not prized. It looks like one of those Jirachi are in the prize cards this game, so may have less outs to being able to consistently get that into play with something like the Stellar Wish. So I'm sure we're going to see Dene come down. Dene Change is going to find 6 fresh new cards, needs to put something together, and has a few options. The potential to utilize that Stellar Wish, even switch into the Volcanion to try to get a Flare Starter going. We could see this hand get thinned down to all but 1 card, and then Crobat build that hand back up. As we've seen time and time again, Dark Asset being such a powerful ability, allowing you to draw till you have 6 cards in your hand, but it looks like may consider playing a little bit of a safer route or going in with the switch into this Volcanion and drawing an extra card.
Yeah, I mean, I understand kind of what Hyun Soo's thinking there. You know, maybe if I find a scoop up net, I would want to switch into the Jirachi to let me draw a little bit more pieces. Doesn't quite work out here, but does find the Welder with the energy. So, if you could have found a quick ball or a communication there, could have actually salvaged this turn into being something pretty solid by accelerating those extra energies onto Cramorant V. Onto the Centiskorch V. Looks like it's going to have to just settle with going onto the Cramorant V.
Yeah, an interesting choice to actually attach to that Crobat. You're down a lot of energies already, so that energy pretty much is just going to be used to retreat and get in the discard pile. I don't know if you're really in a position necessarily to make a play like that. At worst, if something like the Spit Shot were to ever target the Jirachi, you could just attack with the Volcanion. High E Blast is able to deal 110 damage with 4 or more fire energy in play. As we do see the Mewtwo, I believe, putting that Welder back onto the top of the deck and gonna just draw into that with Dene and get played here from Azul. Will get the extra energy onto the Cramorant. Still has the attachment for turn, so we'll be able to build up something like another Cramorant, start building Blacephalon up. There's a lot of lines of play here that Azul can take, and it just feels like game 1 in such a dominant position most of the game, and game 2 just feels like it's going the exact same way. We'll be able to most likely take a knockout on the Sedene, draw 2 prize cards, and put himself that much closer to advancing to the next round in the winner's bracket.
Yeah, what Hyun Soo might be thinking here with the energy on the Crobat is like you just getting the energy attachment is good because you play Heatran GX is kind of like your big GX attacker in the deck, right? So that's always something you can pull the energy off of the Crobat to try to take a prize in the late game potentially. And Azul did not put a Giant Hearth in play for Hyun Soo this time, so this Welder not going to be super helpful here. You can go ahead and switch into Jirachi to Stellar Wish. You've got the Scoop Up Net as well. And we can still see a Spit Shot taking prizes on this Dedenne GX, but we have yet to see a Centiskorch V come down from Hyun Soo's Centiskorch V Max deck.
Yeah, 2 things to note here. Has the ability to Stellar Wish to get things going. I'm sure we're going to see that. I think just debating whether or not to use the Scoop Up Net. I could have liked that play to get the Volcanion out of play. You don't really need that anymore, but this Stellar Wish is going to be able to grab Fire Crystal. I was looking through those cards and wondering if there's energy to discard pile, but I believe there was 3 that hit the discard pile on the first turn, so we will be able to see that Fire Crystal grab energy. But the problem with this hand is there is no real good Welder target to accelerate these energies to.
Yeah, you can just put 1 in play here, I think, and then give yourself the Heatran option later on, potentially. And that's, just going to go ahead and go with 2. So you're definitely kind of committing to the Heatran option at this point, it feels like. Hyun Soo actually could knock out the Oricorio on the bench from Azul if they wanted to. Of course, that Galarian Zigzagoon already in hand, so that could be a decent option. Of course, knocking out the Dene GX seems like a decent option as well. So we'll see which route Hyun Soo wants to go. Whatever the route is, it is definitely not your ideal game plan at this point.
Yeah, definitely not. Like you said, the Oricorio knockout can be very crucial. Again, Azul was able to use Dance of Tribute way too many times, if I'm being honest. Grabbed so many cards out of the deck. I believe there were like 3 or 4 times last game. So that's pretty much a combination of 9 extra cards. And dealing with the Oricorio, Azul plays no Pokemon recovery cards in this list. So once these Pokemon get knocked out or discarded via something like Dedenne, there's just no way to bring them back. So you pretty much can limit the amount of Dance of Tributes this Oricorio can take, as I think debating whether or not to play the Reset Stamp. Again, 2 in the list, not 1. So able to utilize that to bring Azul's hand size down. I like this. There was a lot of cards in that hand, as we will see the Spit Shot take the knockout on Oricorio, going to prevent that Oricorio from ever using Dance of Tribute for the rest of this game, as we'll draw into a few good pieces. Finally going to find a quick ball to be able to grab something like that Centiskorch V, but did not re-bench the Jirachi. So as this hand stands, there's really no way for this Cramorant to do a lot. We do see that Quick Ball could grab the Heatran, so that is a potential play to look at for the following turn.
Yeah, it has some options there. Definitely could understand not wanting to bench the Jirachi just because what you might want to do is go with the Heatran on this coming turn. As we see, all Azul can do is just go with the Beak Catch right away. So it looks like the play of Reset Stamp plus knock out your draw support Pokemon works out pretty well for Hyun Soo here. And we actually see the Malolana top deck, so that could be decent to let you save an energy so you don't have to attach and retreat the active Cramorant, and energy is definitely a valuable resource here. You're not playing the full 4 Fire Crystal like Azul's list is, right? So those energy are a little bit more valuable for you in this game, especially since it seems like there's a good chance this game we're not ever going to see a Centiskorch VMAX.
Yeah, and speaking of Heatran GX, that would be a great play if that were a possibility. It seems that Heatran has been prized this game, so we'll be unable to utilize that Heatran to take a knockout on this Cramorant. That has to really hurt if you're Hyun Soo. You really have nothing that you can necessarily, I guess, grab, right? You can't grabbing Eldegoss doesn't really make any sense. You have 1 Fire Energy you can accelerate, I guess, but you wouldn't be able to attack with the Cramorant Spit Shot regardless. And looks like they will actually grab the Centiskorch. So Centiskorch coming down pretty late into the game, but nevertheless coming down, does have the VMAX in hand to evolve next turn. I think the decision is whether or not to go for something like a Beak Catch to grab those cards for next turn, or to Mal and Lana into something, or apply some pressure to the Dedenne. And it looks like we are actually going to see a Beak Catch play where the Dedenne is going to try to get trapped. So one of these rare defensive boss's orders that we see sometimes, but usually when the player is not drawing so hot like Hyun Soo is currently.
Yeah, and Hyun Soo just going to go for their own Beak Catch. Anything you can do, Azul, I can do it too. And we see the Fire Crystal and the Welder grabbed there. Leaves you with plenty of options on the following turn. And let's see if Azul prepped his... How Azul prepped his hand up here. Probably with a Welder, right? Maybe with a Fire Crystal or even the Giant Hearth. But I'm almost certain Azul probably did not prep a switch. So unless Azul has a switch already in hand or is able to draw into one, you might have to attach an energy manually to Dedenne in order to retreat it, which, your energies are pretty valuable resources with a deck like this, especially when you might need to knock out a 320 HP Pokemon in the end game. So we'll see what the pieces are Azul grabbed. Looks like Giant Hearth is one of those options, and we're just going to see another Giant Hearth discarded right away.
Yeah, I see a line of play for Azul that would put him in an excellent position here. Has the Cramorant to threaten something like Spit Shot, but we have not seen the Reshiram and Charizard come down yet. Azul is at 4 prizes. This Cramorant does have exactly 200 HP, so will have just enough health to take or be knocked out rather from this Reshiram and Charizard, which we do see get grabbed off this Quick Ball with the Welder. I think we may see this play that I was talking about here for Double Blaze, not for full effect, but doing enough to deal a knockout to this Cramorant V, and then the Cramorant on Azul's side can just come up and take an easy knockout on Dedenne, and that would be all she wrote. Azul would advance to 2-0.
Yeah, and with this Mewtwo coming down as well, unless Hyun Soo can find that second reset stamp, Azul's pretty much guaranteed the game. You've got energies left in the deck, you've got the Welder on the top, and that Dedenne is just, ready to go down on the bench, right? So Hyun Soo could have theoretically knocked this Reshiram and Charizard out if the Heatran was available. We know, of course, it's not. So I guess here your best option is really probably just going to have to be going in with Centiskorch. It's not something Azul can easily knock out, and you just got to hope that that's going to be enough.
Yeah, it seems like Hyun Soo up against the wall in this game. There's not much to do. If you can't take care of this Reshiram and Charizard, then that even opens up the possibility of Boss's Orders pretty much giving you the game as well, as you can just Boss's Orders up that Dedenne or the Crobat and take a knockout with the Flare Strike. So just going to give Azul even more options. We know the Welder is there, so Hyun Soo would have to find his second reset stamp here off of these 3 cards, but there really is not anything off that draw. I believe another Jirachi and Switch being the things that I saw there off of that. Centiskorch will go ahead and VMAX, so going to become that Centiskorch VMAX with that attack a little bit more powerful than the V, obviously, but not powerful enough to really put on enough pressure to threaten this Reshiram and Charizard. Hearth will go ahead and grab 2 fire energy out of the deck, so this Center Scorch will be hitting for 160 damage, but the way it's looking right now, I think Azul has got the pieces in his hand, or rather, maybe on the top of the deck with that Mewtwo to pretty much seal this game up.
Yeah, and Hyun Soo kind of hovered there over in the deck, looking at the Great Catcher, looking at the Reset Stamp. Those are kind of things that I think they were hoping to draw at this point. Maybe give yourself at least somewhat of a chance to come back in this one, but not getting either of those options. I mean, you've got this Jirachi Stellar Wish. You can go for the Stellar Wish, but you can't switch back, so you've only got the ability to play 1 supporter a turn, so you can't go Mallow and Lana out the Jirachi, right? And you can't take both Scoop Up Net and Reset Stamp off of a Stellar Wish. I think as it is, you should know that Azul has game. You know that Welder's on top of the deck. You know that there's energies in the deck. So you're just by attacking here, you know that the game is over. I think at minimum, you got to go for that Jirachi Stellar Wish and just hope that maybe Azul bricks for a few turns and that you can start building up a Scorch VMAX. This situation is just, you know that you're losing this game at this point.
Yeah, we know the Welder was the top deck for turn. There it is. 2 energies from the hand going to be accelerated onto this Cramorant V. The Reshiram Charizard has enough energy to retreat out of the active position, or a switch will do that as well. And Cramorant Spit Shot dealing just enough damage to knock out this Dedenne GX on the bench. Azul is going to take this series 2-0 over Hyun Soo in a pretty dominating fashion here, really showing us the power of this Welder and Friends, Tempo Zard rather, toolbox-style deck. Has access to so many attackers, Welder being a great supporter card, and it just gives you so many routes of play, and we saw Azul really capitalize on that and make some very intuitive, very smart